name is Dr. Chupuma Uchago, and the topic, the course we are going to take now is International Accounting. International Accounting, code 425. Now, International Accounting, this course will take us to another dimension of accounting. Basically, accounting definition has not changed from what we used to know it. However, international accounting is looking at accounting from a broader perspective. And this course, code 425, is going to broaden our knowledge, or broaden your knowledge in the area of international accounting and the diversities that is associated with international accounting. So this course, the course objective generally is that at the end of this course, students are expected to understand the concept of international accounting. Students are expected to understand the basic concepts, the basic idea of international accounting. And the students are also expected to explain at the end of the day the factors affecting global accounting development. Don't forget that we are looking at international accounting and we're looking at it from a global perspective. So students will be expected to explain the factors that affect global accounting development. Thirdly, students are also expected at the end of this course to discuss causes of national differences in accounting. Accounting from international perspective differ according to localities. For example, Nigeria, other African countries, the Western world, and things like that, we have differences. We have factors that differentiate these environments. So at the end of the day, students will be expected to discuss the national differences in international accounting. Also, students will also discuss the international bodies associated with international harmonization. One of the things that international accounting is going to put us through is the harmonization of the diversities, in international accounting. So students will be expected to, discuss the roles of international bodies in this respect. Also, students are expected to understand the various issues around multinational companies. Multinational companies are the key players in international accounting because they play or they perform accounting from global perspective. So we are also expected to understand the issues of financial statement translation. That is to say that local peculiarities in accounting. At the end of the day, the students should be able to understand the issues that relate to translation from one denomination to another denomination. Then we have to also understand understand the methods of transfer pricing and the difference between domestic transfer pricing and international transfer pricing. So basically, that is these are the objectives that this course is expected to achieve, and then the understanding that students are expected to have at the end of the day. So we go to the first session. This course is broken into 7 sessions, and we're going to start with session 1, which has to do with the background to international accounting. Background to international accounting. Accounting as a discipline has evolved over time. So many developments have taken place that have changed accounting, impacted accounting in one way or the other. Accounting history can be traced way back to the period of Luca Pacioli I think about 1494, and we could see how accounting has evolved from that period of time. Accounting is said to even predate the concept of money. That's to say that before we begin to use money in the commercial terms as it is, the accounting had already existed. So we can trace accounting way back to the medieval period, what the archaeologists used in accounting. We can also trace it back to the period when artifacts are used, when the temple priests of those days use what they use in taking stock of their livestock, of their farm produce, and things like that. In that case, we're talking about the use of tokens, and so many other forms of artifacts. So given that background, we look at the concept of international accounting. The concept of international accounting is exposing international accounting from the point of globalization. Globalization is the key driver of international accounting. All right? And what do we understand by globalization? We are talking about the concept that, a concept of a global village, the concept that businesses, government, and so many other things are taking place, without physical boundaries. Without physical boundaries. So we are looking at market from a global, perspective. In which case also we are looking at international accounting from global places. So globalization is a key driver of international accounting. Drawing from globalization, we are also looking at issues of global financial market, global financial market, where one can stay in Nigeria and you are doing business with somebody in New York, we are doing business with somebody in London, so there is no longer the issues of physical barriers have been dealt with or have been broken, and now we have virtual means of doing business, and one can stay here and transact business from any point of the world. So the growth of international trade and investment have actually helped to drive the universality of accounting. All right, the growth of international trade and foreign investment. We're talking about, look at the capital market, for example. The capital market provides a platform for sourcing funds from any part of the world. So you can source funds. A multinational that is has its headquarters or head office in UK can source funds in London, can source funds in Nigeria, and things and all that. So we see that is a factor that has impacted international accounting and led to the universality of accounting. So that is it. So generally, from what we are talking now, we can look at international accounting as a process of identifying, collecting, recording, measuring, classifying, verifying, summarizing, interpreting, and communicating financial information to various stakeholders at a global level for useful decision making. So you could see from this definition that it did not substantially depart from what we know accounting to be. The only thing it has introduced now is that we are looking at information, financial information to various stakeholders at a global level, also for decision making. At the end of the day, what accounting is doing is to provide communication for decision making, whether it is at a local level or at international level. So we look at factors inflation, international accounting. Don't forget, we are still in session 1 of this course, session 1 of the course, and we are looking at the third, sub topic, which is factors influencing international accounting. Now, every nation of the world has its peculiarities. Every nation of the world has something that differentiates it from another, country. Be it language, be it culture, be it currency, and things like that. Political systems, social systems. So every nation has its own, peculiarity. So one of the factors that influence international accounting is the peculiarities, that differentiates one nation from the other. The second factor is environmental differences. Environmental differences, bearing in mind that the development and application of accounting standards, both in private and public sector. So environmental differences, is also another factor. And when we say environmental differences, we are also looking at, issues around culture, issues around language, issues around political systems as well, and all that. So these are some of the things that constitute environmental differences. So in general, we can sum up the factors that influence international accounting, sum them up under the following: source of finance, the legal system of the country, the bilateral and multilateral affiliations of that very country, the inflation rate in that country, the growth of business in that country, and then the level of education. Now, the level of education is key because accounting professionals and users of accounting information must have a certain level of education, a certain level of understanding that will enable them, provide the information and also use the information. Without that basic understanding, then, communication or communicating through international accounting will be, seriously affected negatively. So I have just mentioned 6 key factors, that impact international accounting, namely source of finance, the legal system, the bilateral and multilateral affiliation, rate of inflation, growth of business in that in that particular country, and then the level of education. Now, that is the sources of. We can look at these factors, one by one. Sources of finance, we look at it from the point of view that companies grow from one level to the other. When the company starts, it starts from one man, and from there it transforms to partnership, or it can transform to a public limited company, and it can also transform to a public limited company that is listed on a stock exchange, things like that. So sources of finance are key in international accounting. Legal system, has to do with, the particular legal system that is prevalent in a particular country, and that can be broken into 2. It could be legalistic orientation, in which case accounting practice is predicated on code law. When a country's legal system is seen to have legalistic orientation, what we are saying there is that accounting practice in that very country will be predicated on code law, while countries that have non-legalistic approach will use common law. So two key things there. Where a country's legal system is classified as legalistic orientation, the accounting practice in that very particular country will be predicated on code law, while on the other side, if it is non-legalistic approach, it will be predicated on common law. All right. So under the legalistic approach, what we are saying here is the code law is, the code law sets the minimum standards which, the citizens must, apply. That is to say that, the Constitution or the how do I put it? The very legal system that the country uses provides the codes, the basic codes that that country will use in, as a minimum standard for classifying accounting transactions in that country. So in this case, accounting principles are codified, which serves as standards for accounting application. All right. So we look at the bilateral and multilateral affiliations. This has to do with relationships between and among nations. It is key because these relationships, they influence the development of international accounting, because accounting practice tends to be universal to meet the needs of stakeholders. So one of the consequences of political and economic partnership among nations is the development of international accounting standards, which we today call the International Financial Reporting Standard. All right. Inflation, we say, is also a factor, because what inflation does is that the historical cost concept, which states that the cost, which states that the value, of money or the value of assets is stable over time, while in inflationary environment, you have price changes over time. So that this inflation, if a nation has a high level of inflation, the value of assets held in the books over time will be distorted. The growth of business is key. Like I said, we said as the company grows, it grows, in complexity in different forms, and this, also is a factor that affects international accounting. All right. So we look at the fourth item, which is the harmonization of accounting standards. Harmonization of accounting standards is looking at how the diversity of different countries of the world, can be harmonized in order to have a common basis of understanding accounting. Of course, we are saying here that globalization has broken boundaries. We are saying that globalization has given rise to international trade. Globalization has given rise to international finance and all that. All right. So we are not saying that some of the factors that affect international accounting are environmental factors. All right. So these environmental factors, how do we really harmonize these differences, to be able to have a common front, to be able to have a template or a framework, that will enable, accounting, that will enable accounting report that I have here in Nigeria, that can be used in Ghana, that can be used in Asia, that can be used in US, and things like that. All right. So that's what harmonization of accounting, standards is talking about. The local standards in the different environments are brought together, to form, one universal, accounting standard that everyone uses and understands. All right. So harmonization is the process of increasing the compatibility of accounting practices by setting bounds to their degree of variation. All right. By setting bounds to their degree of variation. Those variables, those variations, those differences. All right. So what harmonization does is to bring them together in such a way that accounting practices are made compatible, by reconciling, so to say, all those areas of differences. All right. So the objective of harmonization is to unify accounting practices and make it relevant, reliable, comparable, understandable for economic decision making. So generally, we want to now look at the need for harmonization. Why do we need, to harmonize accounting standards? Like I said, international accounting, one of the key drivers of international accounting is globalization. Globalization from investors' point of view, globalization from lenders' point of view, globalization from international accounting point of view. So why do we need to harmonize these differences? So part of the reasons that we need that is, one, to take care of the needs of investors and financial analysts. Two, to take care of the needs of the capital market. Three, to take care of the needs of international lenders. Four, to take care of the needs of international accounting firms. Now let's look at some of the obstacles to accounting practice. Obstacles to accounting practice. Now, in the course of harmonizing accounting practice, it is not an easy sell, all right? Because we have already identified some differences, environmental differences. So let's now look at those things that make it quite difficult to bring this harmonization, to be. One of them is the size of the existing differences. The size of the existing differences. Depending on how complex the differences are, differences in culture, differences in language, differences in currencies, and what have you, differences in growth of business and all that. Depending on the complexity of these differences, it serves as an obstacle to harmonization. Secondly, absence of international regulatory agency. We do not have one agency that takes the responsibility of taking care of this harmonization. So that absence is a factor. We are looking at the other factor, like I said, nationalism. Nationalism is looking at the various nations, and their policies, their laws, and how they do their things, in their own way. So those peculiarities around each nation, is also a factor. So lack of expertise is also a factor. Expertise in the area of harmonization. All right. So with that, we have come to the end of the first session of this course, International Accounting. Remember that the first session we are looking at is Introduction to International Accounting, and under this first session, under this introduction, we have dealt with issues around the background to international accounting. We have explained the concepts. We have also highlighted the factors influencing international accounting. We have also discussed the harmonization of accounting standards. All right. So with this, we come to the end of the first session of this course 425. Thank you for listening.